Here's what happened. Mike, we have the similarity of wanting to look at the root cause or the core of something. So at the core of it, I'm wondering, how would you describe your mission that fuels you right now?
Yeah, thanks for that amazing first question. Just being the highest expression of myself so that I can help others do the exact same. I think that's as simply as I can put it.
Yeah, and then expanding on that, what does that look like? Getting deeper into it.
Moving past some of the surface level things that we think are getting in our way or habits that we can't break, and realizing a lot of it just has to do with the inner work. And for some people, that can be a vague term, but that inner work literally just means like asking 5 to 10 layers of the question why. It's like, okay, like I want to make a lot of money. All right, why? Because it's going to make me feel good. Okay, why? Because I have more freedom. Okay, why? Because like I want to live my best life. I want to live in my highest expression. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, 5 years now in this journey, 6 years in my own like healing journey, but really 5 years like coaching and teaching others. I think at the beginning was really getting my clients amazing results, and still to this day. And what I'm grateful for is that now that I keep going deeper on myself, I'm realize I can bring my clients even deeper, because the truth is you can only take your clients or your friendships or your relationships with family and friends as deep as you can take it with yourself. And so I've, especially after going through my burnout, I realized that there's so much behind like the nervous system and mindset and like stored trauma in the body, outside of just like, okay, eat this and don't eat that. And so that's why I approach nutrition super holistically, because literally anybody can tell you what to eat all day long, but depending on your work schedule, depending on your stress levels, depending on the trauma that you were subjected to when you grew up, depending on the relationship that you're in, the sleep that you're getting or not getting, like it is such a different ballgame for every person. And so that's like, for me, I don't know how to approach nutrition outside of holistic, because your sleep affects what you eat affects your sleep, and your relationships affects emotional eating. So it's all interconnected.
Yeah, I so vibe with that, with understanding how all things are interconnected that we experience in life. And then for you, what are some of the myths that you've heard from people that you work with that come up?
I don't know if they're necessarily myths, but to your point, we were talking about it before, like there's just so much information out there and people don't know what to believe. And from my experience, what I see that as is like people don't know who to trust or what to trust because they don't trust themselves. And that's really the core of what it comes down to, is like, oh, should I ask this person for help, or should I take this supplement, or should I not take that, or is athletic greens healthy, or like should I really eat grass-fed beef? And I think the biggest skill I ultimately teach my clients is how to listen to their body, as spiritual or like intangible as that might sound, because at the end of the day, like it's like, should I have this or should I not? Or like, is this good or is this bad? It's more like, what is the feedback that your body's giving to you? And I'm sure you know all too well, like after going through burnout, that sometimes we don't actually know how bad we felt until we start feeling good. And so, for example, like I suffered from chronic acne for over 10 years, going dermatologist to dermatologist, more or less kind of chalked up the skin issues as like normal. And I was like on an antibiotic at one point. I was taking all these like topical creams. And then I realized it literally was an inside job. And I only figured that out once I injured my shoulder, and then kind of got into the human body. And that got me into nutrition and just like shopping at Whole Foods. Then I moved to San Diego and just like fully immersed myself. And literally within like 5 weeks of joining and learning more about nutrition, I totally eradicated my decade long struggle of, chronic acne and like hemorrhoids and skin issues. So I don't know. I think like truth is an interesting word in science, because everyone literally has their own subjective reality. Like there's no like, this is reality, or like this is the real world. This is just how life is. It's like, no, it's literally just based on your perception. Like, what you're seeing and what you're viewing and experience every single day is literally just a projection of your internal world. So literally no two humans can have the same exact experience, especially with different traumas and the way that people grew up and what they've learned over time. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's necessarily myths. It's just like, how do you actually kind of block out the noise and stop listening to everybody else and start listening to what your body is telling you? And sometimes you can only do that until you slow down, which is a big lesson from burnout, because we're just like so bombarded with plastics and toxins and toxic food and toxic people and toxic news. And it's like, holy crap, our body's literally just like stuck in this like stress mode, fight or flight, cortisol, just totally cranked. But yeah, I think like a lot of, I guess if I had to say some myths, people say you have to have a juice every day to be healthy, or like you have to eat liver to be healthy, or you should drink raw milk instead of whatever, or like this is bad for you. And it's just like there's so much, and then people just kind of throw up their hands and they're like, what do I even do? Like, should I even try anymore? Like, this is so annoying. So that's why the skill of listening to yourself is just so invaluable.
Yeah, I so resonate. And I was thinking back to even when you talked about the beginning of putting that control outwardly to like externally, to if it's other people or like, what should I do? And what have you noticed have been some of the patterns for why people do that? I think back to like how you're growing up, influences from society, and people constantly telling you like, "Hey, this is what you should do." That's how I navigated life at the beginning. Was listening to all the shoulds, and it took me a really long time to get to the point of figuring out what the hell did I want, and understanding then from there how do I move forward, and also wanting to care for other people. So, what have you noticed for yourself and others?
Excellent question. Something I heard the other day, which really resonated with me, was that we're not destined, we're programmed. And so life really, for me, has been all about reprogramming what I've been taught and what I thought was, quote, the truth, or what I thought would make me happy, whether that's a 6-figure corporate job, climbing the ladder, or, having certain friends or having more friends versus like the quality of friends. So I think a lot of it is literally just like reprogramming and realizing that everything is a skill, like literally being good at nutrition, having it become second nature, being consistent at the gym, having a good relationship with a loved one or a friend. Like confidence is a skill, vulnerability is a skill, like literally everything can be learned. And there's no difference with what you learned as a kid and maybe some limiting beliefs or negative thoughts that were literally programmed into you from age 0 to 7 and even to 12 years old. Like I started to get into a lot of like inner child work and subconscious mind reprogramming. And I'm realizing a lot of people say, oh, I want to be healthier. I want to do this, or I want to stop doing that. But their body and their trauma that they have doesn't actually align with those words. And so they have an old identity of like, they're not worthy of getting healthier. They're not worthy of losing weight, or they just can't do it because they're not that type of person. Or I was born this way, or I have these genetics. So there's no way I could ever lose that weight. And I'm realizing that like those are literally all just limiting beliefs. And the person that actually got me started on my personal development was Jim Quick, who's like a brain health coach. And he says that your brain is a supercomputer and it will run whatever program you tell it to. So a lot of us, especially when we grew up, we were kind of out of control on what we were subjected to. And so whether someone's telling you money doesn't grow on trees, or like we can't afford that, or like, this is just the food that we eat, or whatever it is, or the world is a dark place, like that's just what gets programmed into you. And it's interesting now, like the whole wellness generation, especially like millennials, I feel like we're much more conscious about our health and wellness and wanting to take care of ourselves. And it's cool because I'm seeing like people my age that are having kids that are in wellness, and they're literally teaching their like 2-year-old kid how to do like breath work and like regulate their nervous system. Like, dude, that is like a paradigm shift. That is so, so, so powerful versus like, and it's not our parents or whoever. Same thing with like, a lot of parents, at least for millennials, I feel like, you grew up on Cheez-Its and Pop-Tarts and Subway. And it's like, our parents didn't know any better. And it's no different with emotional intelligence. And so a lot of that is like, oh, like, stop whining, or like, don't do this, or like, quiet down. And it's a lot of just like yelling and like blame and guilt and shame. And I think that that is never sustainable. Like if you're trying to like do something, you actually have to want to do it. You have to desire it, because another quote I heard from Alex Hormozy was like, if you have a belief, but you can't explain why you believe it, it's actually not your belief, it's somebody else's.
Yeah. Oh man. And speaking of Alex Ramosi, there was a quote that I was thinking of from him when you were talking, where confidence, like paraphrasing it, but it's like confidence doesn't come from shouting affirmations in the mirror. It comes from building undeniable proof that you say who you are. And I think about that, for going and making those changes and those shifts and those patterns. There are a lot of pain in that, and you really have to face those fears that come up. But then on the other side of it, there is a lot of that relief and expanded confidence that comes until you move to the next level. You got to go through that shit, and it just repeats. There is no end point, and that can be at times tough to realize.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is like the willingness to admit your own blind spots, which is hard to do because obviously they're called blind spots for a reason. But like for me right now, I'm so grateful for the journey I've gone through. And like when I was burnt out, I realized I was eating so healthy. I was doing ice baths, I was doing sauna, I was reading, I was waking up early. But the missing piece was like I was overextending myself. I wasn't building boundaries. just a lot of like negative self-talk. And so to your point, it's like there's like this life is a never ending journey. And so for me now, like I feel like I'm very in tune. I'm very emotionally intelligent. I have a lot of nutritional intelligence. And at the same time, I know that there's other versions of me that are waiting for me to transform. And there's things that I have never heard about, right? Because like inner child work and like subconscious and like hypnosis, like was stuff I never even really knew about until I experienced it. And it was like I went to therapy for 4 months straight, and then I did hypnosis for 4 minutes, and I was like, holy crap, I just got 20 years worth of healing in like 20 minutes. So I'm sure there's like more stuff I still don't know about, which is kind of what makes the healing journey exciting. It's like there's always more to learn, and I love learning.
Yeah, well, and I resonate because for me, going through that process of change, it was coming from the somatic work that I did. That I numbed a lot of my feelings. Partied 6 nights a week in college.
Mm.
Like how I started my first business over a decade ago was DJing, and so getting into that whole scene. So for all that numbing, coming back to the body and going through the somatic work through my teacher and friend Annabelle, and like understanding all those different sensations and realizing, oh shit, like this is natural. Like that's one thing I keep telling myself and others. It's like, oh, it's natural to feel different sensations that come up. And I'm curious for you, as you were navigating your burnout and that process, what surprised you about that process? Either surprised you about yourself or surprised you about understanding something, if it's even in nutrition.
What surprised me was that I am always willing to admit what I don't know. And at the same time, to what I was saying before, like I was doing the ice baths, I was eating all the healthiest, subjectively healthy food. That's a subjective word. Sleeping well, like I felt like I was doing all the right things, and I was literally at a loss. I was like, what else could I possibly do? And to keep a long story short, like I was working with 3 different naturopaths at the same time. I was taking probably like 20 different supplements. I'm very grateful because I learned so much through my pain and through my healing journey. But it was like, oh, it must be a supplement, or like I got to do this like mold test, or I got to do this organic acids test, or gut test, or hormone test. And don't get me wrong, like there's definitely some level of awareness that's helpful with that. But I think I was trying to like basically validate my own suffering, being like, oh, it must be something outside of me. It must be a parasite. It must be Lyme. It must be like EBV, which is what it ended up being at a biological level. But I know that a lot of that came from too much stress because I was doing 2 jobs at the same time. And so people, I feel that often don't give enough credit, I guess, to how much stress obviously affects your overall life, but physically at a biological, physiological level, your gut. Because I was eating super healthy, and this is what Joe Dispenza says all the time, is like you could have all the supplements, you could eat all the juices, all the smoothies, but if you're not like healing your stored trauma, like good luck, not plateauing and like making it to the next level. And, I have still even like some people that are in my world that like, are a little bit more health conscious and feel like they're eating healthy, which again is a very subjective term. I'm not here to define what that is. People have to define that for themselves. But it's like if you're willing to just be an open book and be vulnerable, like you will just grow so much faster. You'll avoid so many of these plateaus where you feel stuck, because like you could be taking all the supplements, you could be doing all the right things, but if you don't have an awareness of what's really keeping you stuck, then how are you going to change? You can't change what you're not aware of. So awareness is always that first step. And so literally the first day I did Reiki, which even for me as a health coach at the time of like 3 years, that was almost like hippy dippy or spiritual. I was like, is this like what? She's just going to like put her hands like over the top of my body and like just move energy. What does that mean? And long story short, I basically told myself to die on the Reiki table, my ego essentially, right? Because I'd realized I had this mentality for the longest time of like worst case scenario when it came to everything, like even the littlest things. Fear, 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 fear. And now I'm realizing that's just it's nothing wrong with me. Like I'm not that fear. It's something that's been basically programmed into me from other people's projections or society, whatever it might be. And so I was like, well, if I'm so afraid of death, like why don't I just feel what it feels like? And I say that it feels good because it's the ego dying, which is a way to shed layers further into your soul, which is really how you become a happy person.
How I resonate to that for the ego is like this burnout beast is what I talk about it, of like this burnout beast right in front of me in the battle every day with our habits, and it's trying to pull you back to your old ways and your old patterns. And is reminding yourself that your body is on your team. Like for so long, I resonate where I felt like I was in battle with my body, and there's more the fear. Like I even was scared to like put my hands on my heartbeat. I was like, shit, like this is fucking weird. Going back to control, like not feeling in control in that moment. And so I really resonate with that. And actually, I did Reiki too. And yeah, it was like one of those first experiences of like, oh shit, like this is wild. And also it's like, it was super weird at the beginning until you get used to it. And thinking back to that for like, those moments where you're moving through and you're testing and you're trying, I think a lot of times for people, especially I think of entrepreneurs, it's like you want to go make the fast decision, keep growing to the next level of success, can be a big draw to want to do that if that's freedom or whatever it is you want on the other side of what that level of success you're looking for in the business and your own quality of life. But for you, like diving a little bit deeper into that time frame of testing things out and trying to find the answers, like what were those feelings like that were coming up for you in those moments, or like what sensations were you noticing in the body at that time?
I think the funny thing is I unconsciously didn't realize what I was doing at the time, which was avoiding the emotions and doing everything I could to not feel them, which showed up as doom scrolling on my phone. It showed up as stress eating. It showed up as, like just trying to work more and push through and keep my mind busy. And yeah, I think that's the irony of it all, is that, rightfully so, like you said, your body's always trying to keep you safe. And what I'm realizing even now as I speak about it, but just also reflecting, was like my body was just avoiding the pain, which was just the uncomfortable emotions that I was not willing to endure or sit with or feel. And it's just funny because pain sucks, but it's also one of the absolute best teachers that we have, because there's really no good or bad emotions. They're all just like feedback to point us in the right direction. And I say the same thing about food. There's no good or bad food. It's like, okay, obviously we kind of know that a seed oil ridden burger or a hot dog or like fast food is not healthy. We know that like fruits and vegetables, especially when they're organic and fresh and local, is quote healthier. But even without those words, you can just be like, okay, how is my body feeling after I'm eating either of those two things? And it's just feedback. And so what I realized was that the pandemic and then transitioning from my corporate job to full-time entrepreneurship were really the two times in my life where I had the biggest blocks of white space and nothingness. And they basically just forced me to listen to what my body was probably already trying to tell me for days, weeks, months, years, that weren't able to be downloaded because I was escaping them through doom scrolling or staying busy or drinking when I was doing that. And so, yeah, I think just like knowing that rest is literally part of the work. And at the end of the day, our emotions are literally just waiting to be observed so that they can teach us what we need to know. But a lot of us unconsciously escape it because I get it. It's not comfortable. But if you want to grow, you have to push your ego aside and be like, okay, I need help. Like I need to like reach out to a coach to help me with nutrition or fitness or spirituality or relationship, whatever it is. Just get something started. And for me, I just actually looking out at my hot tub in the backyard right now. And I remember one morning when my procrastination was so bad. I was like, I used to wake up at like 5 a.m. I was hitting the snooze button to like 8, 9, sometimes like 9:30 in the morning. I just like couldn't do anything. And I was like sitting in the hot tub and I literally just like, it wasn't because I was in a hot tub, but it was like I was just getting the spins because I didn't know like what to do with my life. Like I was just like, I felt like a lost dog, a lost puppy, and it was just like, what is going on? Like I used to be like the most productive guy. Like I'm an athlete, I'm an entrepreneur. I used to like wake up on the weekends and like wake up super early and work on my business. And then all of a sudden it was just like, holy shit. And a lot of it was because I was just pushing myself too hard. And so that's really the biggest lesson I learned, is like rest is literally part of the work, and that like when I'm resting, I'm literally working.
Oh man. Well, and talking, even diving deeper after like that moment where you're in the hot tub, you have that coming up for you, the dizziness, like what happened on the other side of that? because I feel so many times like there's a lot going around online, even of like the one decision that could change your life. But it's like on the other side of that, how do you hold the capacity for your body to be able to sustain that change and to move forward and then to go to the next level? And that's why I talk about with capacity. And so even for that moment, what happened on the other side of that? Of like, what were you telling yourself, or like, what was something that came through of like, this is either a change that has happened or something I got to focus on?
Thank you for that question. It's all kind of a blur, but honestly, I think in that moment I was like, holy shit, like I am not okay. Like I am like seriously not okay right now, and I need to do something about it because I got to a really, really, really dark place, and I considered medication quite a few times, like 4 different instances where I was like, all right, like just swallow my pride, it's time to do it. Family, friends, all from a loving place. Like, hey, maybe it's time. Maybe you could try it. And it would have been fine if I did. Again, it's always just feedback, just part of the journey. But I was like, there's something in my soul and my heart was just like, this just doesn't align with me. Like, I just know that, yeah, it might help temporarily, maybe even not. But at the end of the day, like, it's just not, I don't think it's actually the solution, nor do I think it's going to make it better. But to answer your question, I think like just coming to terms with like the reality of where you're at and like seeing things as they are, but not worse than they actually are. That's what Tony Robbins says. And it's so true because like we don't want to catastrophize. We don't want to like overblow our situation. But at the end of the day, like, dude, if you're in a really bad relationship and you feel like you can't get out of it, or like you're just constantly stress eating, or you're like disrespecting your body by not working out and being super sedentary, and you're like super stressed and you're working too much, it's like, dude, the body is going to let you know one way or another. It's just a matter of if you're willing to listen to it or not. And so it takes the ego death. That's really what it is, because the ego is trying to keep us safe. And to your point, like, be grateful for what the body's doing, because even when it hurts, or even when like you feel like you're doing bad things, or you're self-deprecating, or you're eating the food you quote shouldn't be, it's like the body's just trying to keep you safe because it's trying to regulate the nervous system. It's trying to bring you back to homeostasis. And sometimes you get those quick hits of sugar and dopamine, and like you just want to get out of that pain, because that's what we do as humans, away from pain or towards pleasure. And a lot of times it's much more going away from the pain than it is to move towards the pleasure. And that's what Michael Jordan says. Like, I hate losing more than I like winning. And there's a difference. It's basically him saying like, it's really painful for me to lose because that's a shot to my ego. I can't lose. I'm a competitor. So long story short, dude, it was just like being radically honest. Like you said, I think before we hopped on this recording, like being radically honest with yourself. And that's what I did during the pandemic. I was like, okay, I've always been really afraid of public speaking. And if I keep avoiding it, I'm not going to become the person I want to be. If I want to build a business, if I want to be an entrepreneur, like I have to know how to public speak. I was like, all right, I'm just going to swallow my pride here. Like, got to figure this out. So that's how I came across Toastmasters, which was awesome. And honestly, these realizations only came through in meditation, which is the meta lesson of the number one thing I'd recommend for people if they're looking to start their healing journey, or they know that they want to feel better because they're not feeling like themselves, or they feel like they used to feel better when they were in college or high school as an athlete, and then things started slowing down once they hit 30 because their metabolism shut down or whatever it is. And you don't feel like yourself, which is exactly how I felt when I got my Epstein bar and my burnout. Was like, I feel like I'm never going to be back to the version I was before. But that's just not true, because I'm even better now because I learned so much. But yeah, I think that lesson is that like I'm only learning these things when I'm in silence and when I'm like sitting with my emotions, which again is uncomfortable, and I get that. But like the work you're avoiding, there's treasure through that door. And so, yeah, for me, like when I started doing that meditation, I just basically wrote down, if I were to just like release any judgment, just objectively looking at my life, like where do I need to improve if I want to move up and forward? And one of those big things was public speaking. And then when it came to the hot tub situation, just being like, holy crap, my mental health is like, I've never felt this before. Like I've heard people talk about that word depression. I've heard the word anxiety thrown around, but I was like, dude, I am like in this right now. Like this is like the dark night of the soul. Like I am in this shit. Like, holy fuck. Like I've never felt like this before. Like what the hell do I do? So in that moment, I don't know if it was the same day or the next day, but I was like, dude, I got to like go to therapy. And so that was the first step, and it was helpful. But when I look at the big picture, if I was in that situation and I like know what I know now, and someone was in that exact same situation as me where they're feeling burnt out, don't know what to do, maybe they're trying therapy, I would say, dude, like skip that and go right to hypnosis, go to breath work, go to community, because community is literally medicine and we're hardwired for it. Do inner child healing work And like literally the more you work on your inner self, you don't even have to worry about the logistics of what you're worrying about, because it all just falls into place once you're aligned. And like for me, when I'm super aligned, which I am right now, I don't even need a to-do list. Like I just know exactly what I need to do, because I'm literally, maybe like spiritual for people to listen to this, but like I'm literally just following my heart and trusting that the money is coming. I'm doing what feels aligned. It feels good. And like I got me, God's got me, the universe has got me, and it's all just working out.
Yeah, it hits for me, where it's knowing that you have your back like there, and you're on the same team, and it's like you're forging in fire, and you go through the shit, and then it's like, for people, they might be like, what the hell's worth it on the other side of this, which I know we can definitely get more into that, for what it can do, for what you've noticed for the differences. But yeah, a few things came up I wanted to talk about. First was, I resonate with the not, I'm not okay. Like that is what I've talked about before. For me, it's like that's what came through for having to make a change, was telling myself I'm not okay. And at the time, that's when I moved back in with my parents after my burnout. And I literally went to them and said, hey, I'm not okay. And it was so scary to do that at the beginning, thinking that I had to be perfect for them and they wouldn't love me. And that the connection of love with that, of being perfect, really was fucking in my mind. Like it was just causing these tornado thoughts to happen. And so by doing that, even before they said, like, I remember it was like at my parents' kitchen. It was my mom there, and I was telling her, "Hey, like I'm just not okay." And then like I shared all the lies that I had said over the years, and it kind of just all poured out. And I remembered, even before her saying anything, I just felt relief. Like I just felt great. I was like, "Oh, this is so good." No matter what she says on the other side of this, like I'm feeling great, and because I was honest with myself. And I think that a lot of fear can come up for people, and you don't even move forward, and you acknowledge the truth. And so just hearing that, I was like, dude, I so vibe with that, because so many times we can hold ourselves back, and it can be exhausting so much to hold ourselves back from actually just moving forward through the fear, and either taking the action or having that space to reflect too.
Amen, brother. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, I think vulnerability is one of the most underrated puzzle pieces of healing, and just getting to that point where like I'm either not okay or I'm like pretty decent with where I'm at, but I know I'm meant for more and I know I'm capable of more. Okay, cool. Now we've made that commitment. What do I do from here? How can I like hop on with a guide or a friend or a family member to like help me do something? Because man, I mean, it's so normalized now, and maybe you know this statistic, but like the male suicide rate is 4 times higher than it is for women. And like I had like a pretty close personal friend recently. It was my best friend, like really good friend from high school. And, he had his troubled ways and whatever, but like, it's just like, it's all programming, and it's all like, if he had the tools that I feel like I have through this natural and holistic way, like, damn, I'm like, wow, I wonder if like he had the knowledge and if he had the work and toolbox to maybe use some of this stuff, like maybe it could have been different. Or like, I have friends from college who's, their dads commit suicide, or someone we were talking about before we started this recording, like a lot of his inspiration and the work he does is actually because his dad committed suicide. One of my brother's friends, like same deal. It's just like, damn, dude, I feel like I have like 2 degrees of like separation from a lot of like real shit. And it's sad. And it's also feedback, right? It's like, all right, what are we doing wrong? What are like, there's a healthy balance of masculine and feminine energy. And I think what I learned in my journey was that sometimes if you're trying to do too much, especially in the world that we live in now, you're trying to be overly masculine, you're trying to overly push through, trying to keep on that mask and that facade. Ironically, the less masculine you are, because you're basically unconsciously, without verbalizing it to yourself or anyone, that like, I'm afraid to just like meet myself and be honest with myself. And it's damaging. It's damaging to your health, and it can even be lethal. Obviously, that's what suicide is when it gets to such a bad point. And so the ego is there to protect us, but we can't let it take over too much, because it gets not pretty. And that's why I'm just really passionate about holistic health, because it often goes much deeper than just like, I can't eat healthy, or I can't work out or go to the gym. Like there's usually deeper layers there that keep people stuck.
And it's like that reminder. I say it's like it's temporary. It's sometimes you get stuck in that loop, and then it's like holding ourselves back and staying in that situation of the emotions that are bubbling up, the pressure building, all those different things, and that can come up from that. And thinking about that too, like honoring the different emotions and then moving through it and then navigating it, getting the lessons and the emotions. On the other side, what have you noticed the differences, some specific differences of doing this work and moving through it as you're building the business for your own quality of life and how you show up to the world?
Excellent question. Thank you for that. I always say to my clients, sometimes you don't know how bad you felt until you start feeling good. And I didn't realize how much I was people pleasing. I didn't realize how much I was not building boundaries. I was overextending myself. I was trying to prove things. I was trying to validate externally. And again, like a lot of this can be very spiritual or hipster for people to like grasp onto and be like, does that actually make a difference? Like if I'm like working with a nutrition coach and they're going to go tell me to meditate for 5 minutes, or they're going to tell me to like put my feet in the grass, like, is that really going to do anything? Like, shouldn't I like have a tangible, like eat this and don't eat that and take that supplement? It's like, I guess it'd be kind of cool, but also be kind of boring. You'd just be a robot, which is kind of a meta lesson too. It's like we're human beings, not human doings. Um, and yeah, I think that I just can't imagine it any other way now. Like the business and the dynamic of which I'm doing business, which I'm so grateful for my mentor, Matt Hirsch, sponsored ad. I mean, that was the one kind of big silver lining that came from my doom scrolling when I was burnt out. It was like literally, I remember exactly where I was. I was just like laying down on my floor in my bedroom, doom scrolling at like, I don't know, 8 p.m. or something. And then all of a sudden, like this dude that just was like super authentic, like had some really stark message. And I was like, whoa, like, what's that? And I clicked on his profile and then I was in a, rabbit hole. And then I ended up hiring him as a coach, and he basically helped guide me through a spiritual awakening I never knew I needed. And it's like, I'm not people pleasing. I'm not like doing these things for other people just to like make them like me. It's like I'm literally just doing genuinely what makes me feel happy, and I'm filling up my cup so that I can fill up others' cups and genuinely want to do it. Because I think even a lot of people will, oh, you got to do the right thing, or like you should be a kind person, or you should do that. And it's like it's all from a place of love. I get it. I get what you're trying to say. But if it's from a fear based, or if it's from lack, or it's like a validation to say, oh, I'm a good person, it's like, no, like I just know that like following my heart, like I'm just going to be the highest expression of me, and then allow others to do the same simply just by being myself and embodying it. And like even like earlier on in my career, it was like there was a time where I actually like gifted my parents for Christmas like a ton of wellness stuff, like a couple $1,000s worth of wellness things, and they didn't use a single product. And I was like, what is going on? Like I just want to help them out. And so that just goes to show like I was projecting like, oh, I need to like fix my family or friends, or I need to like help everybody, or like I have this like savior complex. It's like, no, dude, like you just get to save. I like to use the word save, but like you just get to work on yourself. And this is what Ram Dass says, like the best thing you can do for me is work on you. And the best thing I can do for you is work on me. And this is like the biggest thing I like to say is that like self-care is not selfish. It's actually the exact opposite, because if you're eating like crap, if you're not sleeping well, if your hormones are imbalanced, your skin health is terrible, like you're going to be super self-conscious. You're going to like suppress things. You're going to get snappy at family and friends. Like I was when I was burnt out. Like I went back to Massachusetts a bunch because that was like what felt safe to me. And I'm very grateful, and it's all part of the process. There were certain things that came out of my mouth, like when I was around my parents, that triggered me. When I was burnt out, I was like, holy shit, like, did that really just come out of my mouth? Like, it doesn't even feel like I was, like, that was me. Like, I literally didn't even feel like I had control of what just came out of my mouth. And so that was just like a saddening moment. And that happened multiple times. I was like, damn, like, I'm really not in a good place. Like, I literally was a zombie. And my parents saw it firsthand. And, what was really inspiring and really cool, kind of the meta lesson of what you're asking is like, I went through that whole transformation. My dad literally like saw it firsthand. Like he saw how dark of a place I was in. I'm here in San Diego. I'm like more or less just like living alone, and people aren't really seeing or hearing what I'm going through because I'm not saying anything to anyone. And then when I was back home, I was like pretty honest with my family and parents, and like I couldn't really hide it because I was just so miserable. And then he saw me transform and he was like, holy crap. And I'll never forget the day that he called me and I was standing right here. I'll never forget that either, which just goes to show you things like 9/11 and like all these like very deep emotional events. You remember exactly what you are because they're powerful and potent. He called me because obviously I'm his son and he's my father and catch up. But like, so like, hey, how you doing? Like, what's up? Like, what's going on? What's new? But I could tell the main reason he was calling me was because he genuinely wanted to do my nutrition program. He had done it once before, like a year or two prior. But then he saw like, okay, yeah, he went through the nutrition stuff, but it's like, holy crap, there's like emotional intelligence. Whoa. Like, I don't know what he did to go from zombie Mike A to like amazing, super high expressive, super high energy Mike B. But like clearly he's doing something right. So I got to learn what he's doing. And which is just like the ultimate greatest honor is like my dad and my family has given me so much growing up. And for me to be able to give back to them organically without me being like, hey, you should do this or you should do that. It was just like my light literally magnetized him to want to, yeah, better himself. And, you know, my dad's had multiple types of cancers. He's had a lot of health stuff. And for me to be able to like live my highest expression and then the byproduct of that to help him heal his health is like, there's just nothing better than that.
Oh man. Yeah. And yeah, a few things were sticking out to me. I so vibe with it. The idea of like what you think or what you want to say to people and the thoughts that come with that. And then you're connected to it from the heart of like, okay, this feels right to say, it's coming from a caring place, and then actually to say it and having those things line up. I think that's such a powerful skill, because then it makes it so much easier to move through life, and you're not constantly, feeling like you're putting the mask on and lying, and feel like that pressure is constantly building without a way to release. Have you ever had a moment of doing that, and then it's like, you could say backfired in the moment where it wasn't received, and like how you navigated those emotions that came up for you in that? Because I think of anyone that's listening that's like, okay, shit, dude, like you guys are talking about this, I'm going to go do it. And then usually what happens is you get like, metaphorically punched in the mouth of like, it doesn't work. And so you have to deal with also those emotions that come up. As a situation like that or something similar happened for you?
Dude, you ask amazing questions. I think this has probably happened in multiple different outlets and capacities, but for some reason the main thing that just came up for me was when I was like in the middle of my shit and my two siblings came into town. And I'm so grateful for them. Like the fact that they didn't even really ask. They're just like, hey, we're coming to San Diego. Like, we want to hang out with you. We're going to grab dinners together. Like, it was literally just me and my two siblings, which is like really, really special. I know a lot of people don't even have contact with their parents, or their parents are divorced, or like they don't even have siblings, or if they do, they're not close with them. And we were sitting at the dinner table and I was trying to explain what I was going through, which, as you know, when you're burnt out is like, it's like talking to a dog. And it's no disrespect to the person you're talking to, whether it's family, friends, or a stranger. But it's like, if you look at it from a victim mentality, it's not great because you're like, oh, people don't know what I'm going through. But when you can like empathize with an entrepreneur like yourself, this is why this conversation we're having is so deep and powerful, because like we just get it. We've gone through similar things. But they were like asking me like, yeah, like what's coming up for you? Why do you feel like, I feel like you're doing so well. You're signing all these clients, like you're living in San Diego, things are going so great. And, obviously my inner critic and my ego is so loud that I was just like choosing subconsciously to not see all the success and the great things that were in my life. But I brought up, I was like, I don't know. I just feel like I have like trauma. Like I was like, I feel like I have trauma because I'm like, getting into the space. I'm starting to learn about how it affects our health. And they're like, trauma? They're like, what's trauma? And they're like, you didn't have any trauma. Like we had such a good upbringing. We had such a good childhood, which is correct. And at the same time, there's little T trauma, there's medium T trauma, there's big T trauma, right? If you get in a car crash, that's big T. If you, whatever it might be for you. But there's also like, oh, you said something and someone didn't like say that's okay, or like, I understand what you're saying. Like your body stores that, your mind stores that. And that literally becomes the limiting belief. It becomes an identity. And then you're unconsciously running through your life with an identity that is an old version of you. And you say you want to make this amount of money, or say you want to be healthy. But then like the old stored trauma is like, nope, we're staying safe because this is familiar, even if it hurts. So you're not going anywhere. You're not going to grow. So in that moment, to your question, was like, I felt, and I don't blame them, and not like, they were there and they were trying to do their best and they were there to support, but there's like, it kind of just felt like they were like invalidating what I was saying. Just like, what do you mean trauma? You don't mean trauma. I'm like, well, that's how I feel. And again, going back to like science and truth and reality, like we all have our own perception of reality. And so I just kind of, that was just one example. I don't know why that, like, organically, that was just the first thing I thought of. But that was one situation where I was like, damn, like I feel like I'm getting vulnerable, and that is a part of healing. But then like they're not actually validating what I'm saying, which is why I think that when I realize it, what I do in my coaching and the coaches I worked with that I've resonated so much with is that they've been through similar shit. They empathize because of that. And they are like, okay, I'm not going to be here to fix you or tell you what to do or like give you advice. It's just like, dude, I see you. Like, I understand. Like, that's hard. I get that. And yeah, I think that's a huge part of like emotional intelligence is just, and I think that's what you see in politics. I can't believe this person would say that. I can't believe they do that. This person's crazy. Like, everyone grew up a certain way. Everyone has a different life experience. Everyone has trauma. Like, there's a reason that somebody's acting the way that they do. And when you can look at it objectively and be like, that person's, instead of saying that person's crazy, it's like, I wonder what happened to that person in their childhood. I wonder what their life experience has been. I wonder why they act this way. I wonder how their ego is trying to keep them safe by saying X, Y, Z. And that's where the game gets really interesting. And that's when you can really be standing in your power. That's where you can not pay attention to toxic news and toxic media and toxic things. And you're just like, wow, I just choose happiness. Like, oh, you're naive because you don't watch the news, or you don't like, you don't care because of X, Y, Z. It's like, I choose to live a life that makes me happy. End of story.
Yeah. Oh man. And it's interesting even talking about that for what's out there is I see that of keeping up with what's going on online, and you can hear it even in person, or you maybe get the call or text from like an uncle or an aunt talking about this shit just happened. It's interesting to try to like hold both. Like I think of, for my mission of make brown extinct, what's on the other side of that for people, and it's an ongoing process, but it's like critically thinking about what's going on and having that opportunity to create that space to be curious and like understand what's happening in certain situations, and then being able to interpret that of how that resonates for you, and what you want to take from that and for action moving forward, if that's in building the business or improving the quality of life. And it's interesting, this quote is coming through from mentor of mine, John Butcher, where there is no one right way, but there is a right way for you. And taking the time to really dive into that and figure that out. I feel like we're on that theme right now. But it's interesting. One thing that comes up, and I'm wondering if you've experienced this as you're building the business, is like holding two skills together. One is this skill of satisfaction in the day and in the work that you've put out there for today. And then on the other is in this other hand, it's like exploring what else is possible for that potential that's within you. And that you can think about that of like sharing the gifts out to the world, moving to these new levels of success. But have you been exploring that for yourself, of like figuring out how to be satisfied, how to have the fun of the day, and then also like the hard work grind, and like put this in for the reps, and like be able to really go and maximize what it is you're wanting to put out there into the world? Because I think there's a lot of extremes on either side of that, but there's not a lot of the middle, and like having both. I'm curious your take on it.
I'm not surprised that your podcast is over 100 episodes, because again, these are not just saying this; these are really good questions. So I appreciate it, dude. I think it's physics. It's like science and biology. My mentor, Matt, I think he was like a biochemistry engineer major or something, and also like had a mix of like an MBA. So he had like business, but also like science and like physics and biology. And his thing is like, instead of pushing through and doing more and adding more force, like I'm probably going to botch this, but like he talks about like Einstein and like all these other like physics concepts, Newton stuff. And it's like, dude, if you want to increase flow, I don't know what the equation is. I can't think of it right now. But literally, if you want to increase flow, you have to remove the resistance. You release the resistance. And if that's not the best analogy I've ever heard, I don't know what is. And so instead of doing something like pumping out 200 cold calls at a company you hate working at or whatever micro task it is in your own business or whatever, like just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel aligned. It doesn't feel good to your heart and your soul, or like your energy is just depleted from it. Keep trying to do more and more and more, like discipline, do it, figure it out, like push through. Like there's definitely times for sprints, but only when it feels aligned, I feel like. And so I think that's it, dude. It's physics. It's like if you are working a job where you make a lot of money and you're making six figures and you feel good and whatever, and it's cool, but there's a lot of resistance every day you show up and it doesn't really feel good in your soul. Or like you grew up as an athlete, or you know you had some sort of like entrepreneurial spirit in you, but you don't know what to do, or you're too scared to leave your job. It's like, dude, you gotta release like the overexertion of force and let go of the constantly doing. Slow down, release the resistance that you're feeling, and the flow will literally increase. It's just physics and science and energy, and that's all we are, is just energy. And so yeah, that's been a super profound kind of concept and analogy that I've taken with me. And to really straight up answer your question, I think to this day I still try to find that balance. But when I notice that I'm in the most flow, which genuinely and authentically right now I'm in probably one of the best flows I've been in my entire like entrepreneurship career, and I feel like I'm really exploding to this next level of myself, which is really exciting. The money stuff is like, it's a relationship just like anything else, like with a human. And it's been fun because like releasing a lot of like stored trauma and like old limiting beliefs is like allowing me to step into more money in like different creative ways, which is so cool to see. Um, but like I'm doing a lot right now. Like for example, it's funny that I'm going to say this on a recorded podcast because obviously I'm a huge harper of sleep. I can't even remember the last time I did this, but I did a hypnosis session at like 7 p.m. last night, and I just got into this like extra inspired mode where I was just like cranking out work, and I really wanted to do it real time because I was like, I just feel like I just need to do this right now, and I want to do this. It doesn't feel forced. I want to do this. You literally have to force me to go to bed because not because I need to finish this or I have to do this. Like I fucking want to do this right now. And I stayed up till 3 a.m. And I'm like, that would never, like, I have a podcast tomorrow. I gotta be, I mean, luckily my energy's been so good recently that like I feel amazing right now, even though I got whatever 6 hours of sleep when I normally get at least 7.5 to 9. Most of the time I'm literally like having no electronics by 8:30. And I'm like, it's actually more beneficial and valuable to go to bed earlier and then wake up earlier versus trying to push through and stay up late, because obviously circadian rhythms and you don't want to look at your phone and your laptop too close to bed. But again, it's like sometimes we live in these months or like couple months where we're sprinting because like new stuff is happening and we're excited about it. But I think there's a huge difference between like staying up till 3 a.m. because like you think you have to do something, you think you should, or like you have to get this quota for your sales job that you hate, versus like, holy shit, I'm like changing the world literally one bite at a time. And I fucking love this shit and I want to do it, and I want to do it right now. And so it's really about like being able to block out the noise, stop worrying about the logistics of should I do this, should I do that, like what business models should I do. It's like, dude, slow down, breathe into it, listen to your heart. And then literally the work does not even feel like work.
Yeah. Oh man. And I was like, dude, you're feeling alive. Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Switching it up. I think about that with habits. I talk about that a lot. It's like, simplest way I define burnout is like a major life transition that's forced on you by your body. And the way that you make burnout extinct is just having more energizing habits than draining habits in your life. Like there's seasons, chapters of life. But it's the reminder of like, if we stay so rigid and structured in those habits, it's like we lose the whole purpose of why we have those habits in the first place. And so to be able to like feel that urge, honor it, and then like freaking take it all the way wherever it leads, it's like, fuck yeah, that's like feeling alive. It's like there's so much magic in that. So like, hell yeah, like that's cool for the sleep, for like doing that yesterday. It was yesterday, right? Is when that happened.
Yeah, it was literally last night, and it's super rare,
Yeah.
but I was like, it just feels aligned. But honestly, like when you can get yourself to a point where you literally like don't, like, I love sleep. Like I do nutrition coaching, but I would say like stress management and sleep are even like more important than the food. They're all interconnected, but like if that's the cornerstone, that's really where it starts, a domino effect. But when you are at a point where like you literally don't want to go to bed because you love what you're doing so much and you literally can't fucking wait to wake up in the morning. Like sometimes I wish I could just like close my laptop, 5 seconds goes by, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm totally recharged. I don't know. It's 2025. Maybe we'll have some technology that does that for us soon. But I was like, dude, it's like Christmas morning. Like I cannot wait to wake up. And I'm so grateful to be able to say that. And of course, like when I was burnt out, it was the exact opposite. I was like, holy shit, I can barely get out of bed. I'm hitting the snooze button like 8 times. Like, what the fuck is going on with me right now? And this is before I had the knowledge of how to be aligned and how to like live in your purpose, which I think a lot of people think they have vitamin deficiencies, but most people have purpose deficiencies.
I love the way you put that for it. And it's interesting too, because it reminds me of like a pendulum swing. That's something else that comes up where it's knowing, going back to like it's temporary. It's like there will be those moments of like being able to dive deep into it, and then the pendulum can always swing the other way a little bit. But I always go back to like, what's the baseline? What's been the growth over the years? Looking back, yeah. What do you feel about that for like looking back on the past? Like, where do you spend most of your time?
I try to spend most of my time in the present. But yeah, dude, it's interesting because I think, again, goes back to the ego. If this is the question that you're asking, you can re-ask it if I'm not answering correctly. But like, you get to change with the seasons. You get to change with adaptation. It's literally science. Like it's theory of evolution, survival of the fittest. Like, yeah, like that's just how it goes. And so, like, I was huge on, and I'm still doing it. Like today, I just did it organically because it just happened with how my schedule is. But if you're so rigid about, I have to fast every single day, I can't eat till 12 p.m. and I have to do this, or I can only eat one meal a day, or like I have to do my ice bath every single day. I have to meditate every single day. Yes, there's so much discipline and so much compound interest and beneficial effects of that stuff. And yes, there are times where you could do things that you don't necessarily want to do because you have a grander vision and mission in mind. But if it's coming from a place of like, I feel like I just have to do this because like somebody told me to do this, or my nutrition coach prescribed me a meal plan, so I have to eat this. And it's like, well, why, how come we can't like operate from a place of, I actually want to do this? Because I think so many people are operating on like guilt and shame and blame. And like, oh, I just have to do this because someone told me to do it. And like, this is healthy. And like, this is what I have to do. Like, I'm just going to do Whole30, or I'm going to do 75 hard. And don't get me wrong, like they build discipline. That's cool. But like, how can we get ourselves to a place of like, oh, I can't have Chipotle. It's like, dude, I don't fucking want Chipotle. Like, I'm going to feel like crap. I'm going to have terrible shits. Like, why the fuck would I want to eat that? Like, that doesn't even cross my mind anymore because I think food is a form of self-respect. So it's just interesting when you kind of think about like, because I think that's where I was stuck in my burnout. I was like, oh, I have to do this ice bath. I have to meditate. I have to read my book. I have to do this like every single day. Or like, oh my God, I didn't go to bed at 9 p.m. tonight. So like my life's over. Like I'm not going to be healthy. And I got so extreme with that. And so now I'm realizing it's less of like a morning routine or a wind down routine, more of like a morning flow and a morning structure and not a wind down structure, wind down kind of flow. And like that is where these are byproducts of like tuning into your body and like knowing what you actually need. So I don't know if that answers your question, but my coach really helped me because I had such a mental block and I was so caught up in my own mind about like, oh my God, like I used to do like fasting all the time. I used to do this. I used to think like kombucha was really healthy. I used to think that was great. And I'd be so afraid to be like, oh, I don't know if I actually believe that anymore, you know? And it's like, it's okay to say that. And I think the smartest people, the most successful people are able to admit and say like, that doesn't actually resonate with me anymore. Like, I used to really preach XYZ, but like, I'm at a different point in my life now. And like, it used to work and it did work for me. And I felt amazing doing it. And now where I'm at in my life, this has actually been working for me better. And I think most people are like, I think the perfect example is like when people go like vegan, there's nothing wrong with that. That's besides the point. It's just an example because I've had a lot of friends that are like influencers that have 30, 40, 100,000 followers. And like their whole identity and their whole ego is like, I'm a vegan. That is the identity I have in this life. Yet my B12 is low. My energy is super low. My iron's been tanking. I'm too afraid to say that I don't eat vegan anymore because I'm teaching it, I'm preaching it on my Instagram. So I'm just going to keep doing it even though I feel like shit. And that just goes to show you how much our ego tries to keep us safe, and our identity and our actions are more so tied to our identity than they are to like what is kind of like actually makes sense. So as soon as you can kind of let your ego die and pull away from an identity around anything. Like for me, when I was burnt out, I was like, I'm a health coach, I'm a nutrition coach. Holy shit, I have like gut issues right now, I have afternoon crashes. Like, how am I going to like tell people that this is what's going on? And so my mentor was, he brought something up great to me. I forget what it's called. I think it's called like waybackwhen.com or something. Or like I used to, I don't know, I forget what the title of it is. I got to try to find it because I still haven't looked it up, but I might have to do it after this call. But he was like, yeah, there's like stuff that Andrew Huberman used to say like 5 years ago. And then you have like another video of him talking about it. And it's like, he's like on the exact opposite spectrum. And so when you let the ego shed and you let it die, you can be like, I'm willing to admit that that's something I used to align with, but not anymore. Or like, I'm willing to admit like this person used to be a good fit for me in a relationship, but now they're not because I've evolved and they haven't caught up, and like they're draining me. So I'm going to leave. Or like, I used to love Chipotle, or I used to love this, or I used to think that like counting calories or macros or just because it said organic on it means it's healthy. And I'm so prideful because I know I'm healthy. I eat clean. Like I'm already healthy. I don't need any evolution or help. Just be willing to say that like maybe there's a different way of doing things. And that statement right there, I think was like the overall biggest meta question / rhetorical statement I said to myself when I was burnt out. Was like, holy shit, Mike, the way you're doing things right now is clearly not working. Maybe there's a different way. Maybe I can reach out to somebody to help me out with that.
Yeah, it's I go to this line. I just said it yesterday for a combo. It's like, it's possible. You know, you may not be able to believe in like the next version or whatever what you're adapting to, but it's like, just, it's possible, and then explore it from there. And like, that's, I so resonate with it. And it's interesting because yeah, there's so much like intensity around people changing their minds. Like if that's people that are looking up to someone as a leader, or looking at someone as a mentor, and they change their opinions and their views. And I think for me, that's like one of the greatest gifts, is to be able to be willing to change based off the information that you're seeing and how it resonates for you. And so I appreciate you talking about that and highlighting it, because I think it's really important for entrepreneurs. You can get caught up of like, I have to stay in this certain lane or stay in how I'm presenting myself, even though internally it doesn't resonate. And when there's like a dissonance there, it just starts to eat at you and becomes this thing where it becomes even exhausting to try to keep it up.
1,000%.
So it resonates.
Yeah. I mean, just quick interjection. Like, I'm a nutrition coach. Like that's what I do. Like I teach people how to eat better. I teach people how to heal their relationship with food. I teach them how to get more in tune with their body and actually understand what food is good for them. And so that they can confidently go to the grocery store, they can confidently cook a meal and be like, yeah, this is actually what my body needs. And what I also realized as I went through the spiritual awakening was like, holy shit, like it's all just essentially the nervous system. And so for me to tell someone to do this and do that, like I give people tons of structure. Education, awareness is a huge part of it, but also tuning into yourself, tuning into your nervous system, tuning into like meditation and grounding is so important. And now I'm doing group coaching. And to your point, like I was so gung-ho on like only one-on-one. And then I started doing hybrid because my coach helped me get through some limiting beliefs that I literally thought about doing hybrid / group coaching for 6 months. And then I was in his program for like 6 days and I like made the decision and did it. Which is just wild. And it just goes to show you like getting objective perspective in a community is so powerful, to hear yourself think and like have people like be like, okay, like this is what you can do. You can just kind of, move the emotions aside and just do it. Like take messy action. That's why I literally have my whiteboard right now is learn by doing, take action, run the experiment, just do it. And that's been so powerful recently because you get a lot of feedback. If you're overthinking something and you don't, should I hire this coach, or like, should I read this book, or should I listen to this podcast, or like, should I try to quit my job, or like, should I ask this person for help? It's like, you'll literally never know until you get the feedback. And I was going to post this today. I'm going to probably post it in the next couple of days, but it was like, just a download that came to myself was like, what is it? The less you're willing to, let your ego die, the less you're willing to fail. And the less you're willing to fail, the less you will succeed, which means the longer your misery will last. So to sum up kind of the interjection is like, I realized that yes, all the stuff and all that education information I'm providing my clients is so valuable and they've gotten amazing results with just that. But I kind of came to a point where I was like, oh, do people really want me to talk about like spirituality or like meditation, or like, do they want to do a grounding before we get this call started to like get centered? and really ask yourself, like, what's actually going on. It's like, okay, I'm stress eating. I'm like, my hormones are off, or like, I'm really stressed out. Like, okay, like that's surface level. Like, what's actually happening? And so I kind of had this like, oh, like maybe people don't want to hear that, or like it feels like it's like a different language. But I kind of came to a point where I was like, dude, this person's telling me they can't do X, Y, Z, and like, yeah, I can go tell them to take this supplement and like eat this food, but I actually know what's like actually going on. And for me to like not like ask the right questions to help them realize that would be a total disservice to them, and also a friction within me, knowing that I could have served them better. So this is where you can kind of shift and be like, wow, like I've actually learned some new stuff, that like maybe taking all the supplements or maybe doing all this testing or maybe trying to do HIIT workouts 6 times a week is actually not the greatest thing. Maybe you just need to slow down. Maybe you actually need to eat more instead of eat less. Maybe your body needs like regulation. Maybe your hormones and your nervous system needs nourishment. Maybe you actually don't need this, magical supplement. You actually need community. You need people around you. And so that's where the game changes.
Yeah. Oh man, it just reminds me of what we talked about even earlier. It's like it's a combination of different things, looking at it from a holistic approach with that. Yeah, I'm thinking, what's something important that we haven't talked about yet that we should have?
I have to bounce that back to you. Is there anything that you feel like we haven't covered, or feel like something that people don't think about when it comes to healing and feeling better that we didn't talk
Yeah, I'm
about?
almost thinking there's like something here. So I have another question to dive into, like we'll bounce it back and forth here. Uh, it's it's like, what's something that either like something I may not know about you, or something that we haven't talked about yet that explains your intensity, your passion, or care for this work.
Mm. I've done like 15 podcasts. I think you honestly might have the best questions that I've ever experienced. So thank you.
For
And obviously, that's a reflection of how much work you've done within yourself. Dude, just knowing like what you're capable of, especially if you're an entrepreneur, an athlete, and just like a growth mindset, lifelong learner type of human, knowing what you're capable of and not actualizing that, or like, you can do better. You didn't actually want to have this pizza, or you didn't really want to have this burger, but you were out at a social event and like your friends were just, it's fine. Like, it's not going to kill you. You only live once. Or like, oh, just have this beer. And you're making decisions that you don't actually want to make, but you're doing it anyway to like please other people, is honestly like the highest form of self disrespect. You're basically outsourcing your power to another human to appease them, rather than searching within and prioritizing yourself. And I said it before, but self-care is truly not selfish. And it breaks my heart because people think it's selfish to tell somebody, hey, I can't actually hop on this call right now because I'm like, my nervous system's like really overstimulated right now. And like, I just need to like sit in silence, or I need to go put my feet in the grass and like sit in the sun and just like literally put meditation as a 15 to 30-minute block in my calendar, just like I would a doctor's appointment or a meeting with my boss, which probably 0.02% of people in the world do. This just goes to show you that like, if you care about something, you will do it. You just will. And it's the same thing with like telling people you love the truth, even if it hurts and even if they don't understand it in that moment and it triggers them, but it's the highest level of like love to tell someone the truth. Like, that is magic. And like, yes, I went through my own like chronic acne and burnout. Yes, I endured a lot. And like, I'm now realizing that you cannot teach somebody or you cannot embody something unless you've gone through it, because how else do you have the roadmap? And so that's where it gets fun, is like when you have a vision and you're really passionate about getting to that North Star, nothing can fucking stop you, because your soul is literally pulled towards it and you can't ignore it. And sometimes that comes in the form of pain of like, I don't like this job I'm working, or like, my gut is really hurting me, or I'm having these like afternoon energy crashes, or my sleep sucks right now. And it's like, well, because you're not living in alignment with your soul and your heart. And I think there's so many people out there, including myself. I think there's that quote. It's like, we all have two lives, and the first one begins when you realize you only have one. And that's essentially how I felt when I came out on the other side of the burnout. And like one of the coolest things I think I've experienced, tying it back to like my family stuff. My dad's dad died when he was 6 years old. His mom died when he was like 21. And I know that he's had a lot of like trauma that it's just not something, especially baby boomers, are really taught about. We did a breathwork session together once, and he literally said that he had a visual of his dad who died when he was 6 years old. And that was really fucking powerful. He was saying that he like had tears coming through, super spiritual experience. Same deal. When I like first got into nutrition, my mom, like 30 years of chronic heartburn medication, which I know is so bad for the body. You're only supposed to be on it for like 2 weeks. And these companies literally prescribe for life because that's how they design them, and it's hard to get off of them. And I had been telling her since day one I became a nutrition coach, like, hey, like maybe there's something else you can try. You could try this holistic route. And a lot of people are in fear. A lot of people like, okay, doctor said this, which is fine because that's how we're programmed. But once you just listen to the feedback, like, is this actually working? Like, is this actually helping my body? And so all that to say, like, through this spiritual awakening, I essentially had the same conversations with my mom about the same exact topic, about helping her try to get off this medication. But the way that I said it and started saying it after my burnout, based on my emotional intelligence and how to heal people correctly, or more effectively, I should say, like I was like blue in the face for 3 years saying it. And then on the other side of the burnout, we had like 2 or 3 fairly deep conversations. And now she's been off the heartburn medications for like 4 to 5 months. And it wasn't until I had this new perspective on life where I was able to have that kind of conversation. So, dude, like family legacy, like living your highest expression, knowing that this might be the only life that we ever live, knowing that, as cliche as it sounds, like especially when we talk about friends and close friends that commit suicide and like you never expected it, like, or people die in a car crash probably every day. It sounds dark, but like the people that happens to, like, they didn't know that they went to the grocery store, that was going to be the last time they ever experienced consciousness, and neither did their loved ones. So like you don't know if tomorrow is guaranteed, and uncertainty can be scary, especially when you're thinking about leaving your job or like hiring a coach or like doing something that's just foreign and really scary. But dude, like fucking go for it. Like you've got one life to live. And for me to not be in my highest expression, I mean, you think about biology and like other animals and like flowers and like things that sprout and like express. It's like, dude, that is what we're here for on this planet, is literally to express ourselves in our highest being. Whether, you know, people are relationship coaches, or they're like, you know, they're really passionate about dancing, or like they like to express their sexuality, or they like to express their passion about nutrition, or express their passion about burnout. It's like, dude, we are here to fully express. And I just couldn't live a life where I was like working a job or doing something that I just knew wasn't really meant for me. Like I was like doing account management for a staffing company, and it was great. I learned so much. I'm so freaking grateful for that and all the skills I learned. And I was like, I found a lot of nobility. I was like helping people find jobs and like building families and like putting food on the table for their families, literally building a life. But when I got introduced to the radical awakening of like healing my acne, and something I suffered from for so long, within a couple of weeks, from nutrition and health, I was like, whoa, like there is a much deeper level to life and like happiness and living I didn't even know existed. And so for me, it's like, now that I built this toolbox and have learned all these things, like, yeah, I just can't imagine living it any other way. And it's like no judgment or no like, yeah, everyone's got their own journey, but I'm like, you know, whether you've been on medications, antidepressants, or like whatever it is, and you just feel like you're not getting better, it's like, maybe we can just try something new. And so I have put in so much work, and I feel so amazing and so happy from all the work that I put in and the toolbox I've created, and realize that like all the work I put in myself, like my business and my life is literally just a byproduct of me taking care of myself. And so just embodying yourself and being healthy and the ripple effect that has beyond what you can even conceptualize or fathom or see, or without people verbalizing, hey, thanks for doing this. Or like, when I go back home in Massachusetts and it's like some high school acquaintance, oh, I've been following your page for like 3 years. It's so awesome. Like, dude, I didn't even know like you were following my stuff. Like, that's so cool. And we just don't give ourselves enough credit for that. And so what is better than just literally making an impact beyond what you can even fathom? And I think that's really what I'm here for. And I'm just so grateful that I'm able to be even like saying the things that I just said, being on this like whatever 17th guest podcast I've done now. Like the old me would have been like, what? No way. So yeah, just living in your fullest expression and knowing that like it's really hard and it takes a lot of energy to live a life against and in friction with what you know is actually meant for you.
Fuck yeah. Mike, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your insights, sharing your story, tapping into the courage and expressing that out to the world. How can people find your work and connect with you?
Yeah, easiest way, I'd say my most dominant platform is Instagram, which is just at Superfood Superhuman, all one word, all singular, Superfood Superhuman. Also superfoodsuperhuman.com. You can find me on Facebook as well. I'm on TikTok too, not as active there, but yeah, I'd say Instagram, probably the best, Superfood Superhuman.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll link it too for people so they can check it out.
Right on.
Appreciate you, Mike. Thanks. Like, this was epic.
Yeah, super grateful, man. Appreciate you.